Hi guys, welcome back to the channel. I'm Kimberly Cox, the voice and face behind the Magical Mommy Spot, where I talk about all things mental health, neurodivergence, parenting, and manifestation. And today I am going to bring you my story. I'm going to do it in two parts. I already recorded it once and I just didn't like the way it turned out. So grab something to drink, pull up a seat. This is going to be a little bit of a longer video. I need to preface this by saying that on my channel, I talk about things dealing with CPTSD, ADHD, autism, all of the little bitty side comorbidities of those, and homeschooling and parenting and how we live our life and all of that fun stuff. So if you are not subscribed and that sounds like your jam, hit that subscribe button and the bell notification. We've got all kinds of fun stuff getting ready to happen very, very soon. I have a deadline for myself of the end of February for one very big one to start to happen. So I'm super excited about that. This particular part of this video should be up today, which is Thursday the 6th. So tomorrow is Friday the 7th. I will be going live for my Friday coffee chat at 10 a.m. Eastern time. So if you are interested, just follow the link in the banner on my channel. I have a link to Facebook, and that should take you to my profile or my business page, the page for the channel, and there is an event that you can go ahead and RSVP to that will allow you to get a notification when I do go live. So tomorrow I want to talk about homeschooling, and I want to talk about manifesting and setting goals for the new year, and I obviously want to sprinkle in all kinds of stuff dealing with autism and ADHD and CPTSD and all those kinds of fun things. So if that sounds like your jam, I hope to see you tomorrow. Let's get into the story. All right. So I was born into a home with two alcoholics. My mom and my dad were both alcoholics, and my dad was a hoarder, which, if you know stuff about hoarding, that is actually a subcategory of OCD. And he was never diagnosed. So it just kind of went along that this was kind of what it was and whatever. And I can remember being 3-4 years old and having stacks of stuff on either side of me, going through, like having paths in my house to get places. So, and I always thought that was normal. That was just, okay, we had too much stuff for our house. And that was what I was told, and I wasn't allowed to really have friends growing up. Because with friends comes the invitations to other people's houses and the supposed reciprocal invitations to your house, and they did not want anyone coming to the house. So I could go to play dates like at the park and stuff like that, and my mom had a few friends that were moms of my friends from school. And so she was able to kind of not say, we don't want you in our house like that, but just, play it off like, oh, our house is just a disaster and there's stuff that needs to be fixed in it and we just don't really want anybody in it and stuff like that. So I did have some friends, but when it came to my dad, he did not know about that. He did not want me to have friends because he was terrified that people would find out. So that's like the first 8 years of my life was that. It was my parents arguing every single night that I can remember. With the exception of a few times that we were out visiting family and things like that until super duper late, and we would get home and everybody would just go to bed. And then they would usually fight in the car, is honestly how it worked. So that I can remember, they fought every single night. And then one time, my mom finally had enough, and she pushed, like, not literally physically pushed, but she kind of made it so that my dad retaliated against her and hit her, and that gave her the go-ahead to get out of the relationship because she was just tired and done with it. But she didn't want to get out of the relationship until there was a threat. And so when it became physically that there was a physical threat, then she got out. And we moved in with my grandma, and we lived there for a little while, about, I would say, 6 months or so. And my grandma was trying to help them get back together. My mom was in therapy. My mom actually started going to, not AA meetings, but Al-Anon and stuff like that. And she stopped drinking, and she got on antidepressants. And then my dad came back into the picture, and they decided to try to make it work again. And that lasted a whole, well, it was when I got out of school. So June, July, August, September, October. By October, we were gone. It was before Thanksgiving. So somewhere 5-6 months tops. And I think it was the best thing for everybody. I wasn't really, at that time my dad was still in my life. And so I wasn't really upset about it or anything. It was actually more of like, okay, mom and I get to like live without having to worry about people arguing and stuff. And my dad comes in and, comes and sees me when he can and stuff like that. And I was okay with that. And then my mom and dad got divorced, and there was it was like a year-long fight over stuff. So after the year-long fight over stuff happened, he was supposed to pay child support, but they never put it through the court system. So he didn't pay child support for the longest time. And my grandma was very mad at him because she was supporting me and he wasn't doing anything. And then he would make promises that he was going to show up and he wouldn't, or he was going to call and he didn't. And like, that was my life. Like, I was constantly wondering if he was going to do what he said he was going to do, and if it was going to happen or not. And a lot of it had to do with alcohol. A lot of it had to do with the fact that he was too drunk to do things, or that he didn't want to stop drinking, so he just didn't do things. I also am a firm believer that my dad had Asperger's, which would now be just autism. And I say that because there were a lot of times when he would do things and say things that just were not what a typical adult would do. He was always talked about himself, and everybody always said he was narcissistic, and I don't think he was narcissistic because I don't think he realized what he was doing. Like, I don't think it dawned on him at that moment that it was, I'm dominating the conversation with me and no one else wants to know. I don't think it was I'm more important than everybody else. I think it was just he never made that connection that other people wanted to have a conversation and wanted to say things to him that didn't have to do with him and his work and his life. So I can understand in a way from that the fact that there's a definite ADHD, non-diagnosed in him, just from his school records and his organizational habits and all of that kind of stuff. And the fact that I have ADHD and my daughter has ADHD. So, yeah. I would say that the non-diagnoses of things kind of drove him to drinking because he didn't know how else to medicate, what else to do. He didn't have coping mechanisms because he didn't realize he needed coping mechanisms. So there was that whole thing. And then my mom got remarried, and they needed him to start paying child support because it just wasn't fair. And my stepdad was disabled but not getting disability at the moment. They were still fighting for all of that. And my mom came to me and she asked me, she said, would it be okay if I put it through the courts to have the child support taken from his check? And I said, yeah, that's fine. And she said, I want you to think about this because you know your dad. He's not going to talk to you after. Like, once you agree to this, you will never talk to him again, most likely. And I said, well, I mean, I don't talk to him that much as it is. I think I might have talked to him maybe once every 2 to 3 months. So I said, you know, we need it. It'll help. It's what he's supposed to be doing. Do it. And she did. And I talked to him once after that. And I'll get to that story in a minute. But he basically stopped all contact. He was very upset. I think he called my mom a couple of times and couldn't understand why. Like, if my mom was remarried, why her husband couldn't take care of her and stuff. And I remember vaguely there being some sort of exchange and my mom getting very upset. And I was always the one that tried to calm my mom down. I can remember, like, I did not have my own feelings because if I did and they were not good and happy feelings, my mom would immediately decide that it was her fault that I was upset about something and that she was a failure as a mom. And so in order to keep her from having to do that, I just kind of stopped allowing myself to, I mean, I obviously had feelings, but I never put those feelings out there. So that was like we're just now at the time I'm like 13 years old. So at 13, I had an incident with a very good friend of mine. And I'm not going to get into what happened because that's not really important. That's not really relevant. We'll just say that it was another sort of unexpected chosen abandonment in my eyes. And because of that, it just sort of enforced that was kind of what I was, who I was and what I was worth. And I know that that's not true now. And it's taken me years of healing. As you will see this is why I said this is going to be a long video and tomorrow's going to be a long video. But this is my story. So, and then I went to high school and, you know, tried to fit in and tried to be cool, and I'm not. And part of that is because I am very ADHD and was never diagnosed. I was never on meds or anything for it. I tried really hard in school, but didn't do very good. I was always that kid that my report card, every single report card I can ever remember, pleasure to have in class does not work up to potential. And I swear, like, that is one of the things that, like, that phrase does not work up to potential, it bothers the crap out of me to this day. Because if you do not have ADHD, you do not realize how hard it is for a person with ADHD to work on something, how much effort they do put in. You may not feel like there's effort being put in. It may look like, what are you doing? But like the mental energy and the actual like emotional and mental energy spent on doing simple tasks, it's ridiculous. And so that made me feel like, okay, I don't work up to potential. And then obviously throughout all of that, there was the starting and stopping of things, because that's another telltale sign of ADHD is starting things that you don't finish. And that was my dad too, which is another reason why I can say that, with fairly certainty that he had ADHD. So I think I ended up in a relationship, and I'm not going to go into, I'm being very careful to the people who are still alive, because they have a part of this story that they own. And so the people who are still alive and who could still watch this, could still see this, could still, I don't want to make anyone out to be evil or the villain, because to be honest with you, I really think that a lot of the situations that I was in and a lot of the people that I was, connected with and stuff, everybody just kind of had it was like, because the place that I was in, if you believe in law of attraction and all that stuff, then what I was seeing was people who were having issues, who needed help, who, needed someone. And I wanted to feel needed, because if I felt needed, then somebody wouldn't leave me. It's one thing to feel wanted, but wanted can go away. Wanted can become not wanted very easily. Needed is another story. When you feel needed, that means a person physically needs you. They, almost that they don't have a choice. Now, healed version of me or healing version of me knows that you don't need anybody but yourself. But back in the day, when I wasn't where I am now, it was like, I need to be needed so that people stay in my life, because I can't handle everybody always leaving all the time. And so I got involved in a relationship that was not good for me, or the other person for that matter. And that's another reason why I say, it's not just me. It's not me that's the victim in all of this. It is, I think we all, to some degree, have an ownership in the toxicity that we bring in before we heal, and also the victimization that happens to us as it happens. All right. So I got involved in a relationship, and I was in this relationship, I think we got together when I was about 15. And I got married to the man. I ended up I graduated high school mid-year, the year I was supposed to graduate. So that would be 99. I graduated in January of 99 and immediately started into college. I was taking high school for 2 weeks and college for 2 weeks at the same time. My last 2 weeks of high school were my first 2 weeks of college because of the way the semesters laid. So that was that. And it was different. It was definitely, I was in a place where the beginning of the relationship, when I was still a kid, basically, I was very angry and I was very mad, and I took a lot of my anger out on this man. And I think that set me up for feeling like if it was reciprocated, if he took his anger ever out on me, that I didn't have the right to cry abuse because I had done it to him first. And I didn't know I didn't have an outlet to let the anger out. I would spend all night long for, I would say it was probably a good 3 or 4 months that I spent from the time I would go to sleep, which I never slept at night. It was just this intense feeling of being cut off from everybody, and this intense loneliness that just did not go away. And I couldn't will it to go away. I couldn't think about happy thoughts and what was going to happen in the morning when I woke up. It was just this intense loneliness that just sat on my chest and made it difficult to breathe, and made it difficult to get through the 6 or 7 hours at that time that was night. And I think I felt like no matter what I did, I was wrong. My stepdad did not like me, but it wasn't that he didn't like me. It was that I was my mom's, like, favorite because I was an only child and she didn't expect to have me. And so because of that, I just became this, like, everything to her. And so if I would go with my church youth group places and things like that, she would get really sad and she would cry and she wouldn't spend time with her husband. And he would get very jealous of the fact that I was very close to my mom and he didn't know how to handle it. And so he would say things to me that were very, very mean. He would threaten to take things away from me and threaten that I wasn't going to be able to have any friends and things like that because he wanted me to just make my mom spend time with him. And I was at that point where I'm like, I can't make her. Like, she's married to you. Like, I don't know what you want me to do. He was also, his childhood was very, very, very rough. He was through a lot of stuff and through a lot of stuff as an adult. And he didn't really know how to handle anger a lot of times. One time he actually did try to, we'll put it this way. He did physically attack me at one point. And I think that was what added to it too, was that I didn't feel necessarily safe because I felt like no matter where I went, I wasn't really wanted. Add in there, we're going to sprinkle in some little bits of things, like there's a whole, which this part will be more prevalent in my next part, which is my adult life, but there is a whole list of religious trauma that happened, and also a whole list of trauma that happened to me as a child because of racism. And I was so young that I did not understand that the place that my grandma lived in was, a lot of the people were racist there. And I went to a school because my grandma didn't want to, like, drive me to school because she was upset that my mom and I were living there. So I had to go to the public school, and they had redrawn the boundary lines so that they put kids from better neighborhoods in the schools that were harder, that were more troubled kids. And so I had to ride the bus and go to school with a lot of kids that didn't like me, and they would constantly be calling me names and threatening to hurt me. I had at one point my entire 6th grade class surround me, and the 6th grade teacher, who was a male, actually went in the classroom and locked the door and left me standing outside surrounded by my entire class. It was great. So there's these little things, and I mean, they're not little, they're actually really big, but there's these like little things that happened and then these bigger things that happened. And that's what causes CPTSD. It's complex post-traumatic stress disorder. It is being in situations where you're in fight or flight for long periods of time. And that was pretty much my life. I didn't think anything, like I never actually thought like, oh, I've got the short end of the stick. Like I never was bitter about it. I was never angry about it. I think the most that ever happened was feeling like what did I do to deserve it so I can undo it. I think that was the most of like, how do I fix this? How do I make people happy with me again? And because of that, I became a people pleaser on top of everything else, because I just wanted people to like me, because I lived so long with people either saying they liked me and not liking me, or not liking me. So that is like my childhood in a nutshell. So I am going to go ahead and end this part here, and we will get to my adult life in part 2, which I will post tomorrow morning. I'm going to try to get it up as early as possible, so that it's up so you guys can watch it before my first coffee chat of this year if you would like to watch it. Anyways, this is why I'm so passionate about mental health, and this is why I'm so passionate about healing and your spiritual journey and all those kinds of things, because it's what I feel deep in my soul. It is the road that I've traveled, it is the path that I've traveled, and with everything in me, it is what I know that I am supposed to help guide people through. So, that being said, I hope that you guys have a wonderful, wonderful rest of your day. If you have any questions, drop them in the comments below. If this sounds like your story or a story that you resonate with any parts of this story and you just want to be in a community where this is who we are and this is what we've lived and this is what we're getting through, make sure you subscribe, hit that bell notification button so that you can get all of the notifications when they happen, when I post a new video, when I have, different events and stuff that happen. And just have a really wonderful day, and I will see you guys tomorrow.